Hello everyone, I'm Anupamati. I'm a research scholar in linguistics and phonetics at the English and Foreign Languages University, Hyderabad, India. Today I'm here before you to discuss one of my research paper titled Metamorphosis in Language Learning, a duel between social learning and AI-assisted learning in the Indian state of affairs. Moving on to my presentation. Let me give you a brief introduction to my paper and the major concepts that evolve in my paper. My paper is based on Lev Vygotsky, a Soviet psychologist, social interactionist theory. Social interactionist theory is also known as social development theory. In the theory, it emphasizes the role of social interactions in a child's language development. We look into the situations in India post COVID-19. We all know that COVID-19 has affected each one of us. It had a major effect on teaching learning processes. There was a shift from the traditional teaching learning process to the technology assisted learning process, and hence there was a development in the technology assisted learning. We would look into the shift that of a teaching learning process that happened in India. We would also look into the National Education Policy NAP 2020, which was introduced by the Indian government to the education system of India. There are various major points emphasized in NEP 2020, but our focus would be on the emphasis of education through mother tongue till the grade 5. This point emphasizes that the child should be given education until the grade 5th in their mother tongue or the regional language. We would look into how this would affect the child's learning of other languages. The research questions that we probe in our research paper are, in the light of Lev Vygotsky's social interactionist theory, which emphasized the value of social contact in language acquisition, how has the adoption of AI-assisted language learning affected the roles and perceptions of language teachers in India? How has National Education Policy 2020's implementation affected the use of AI-assisted language learning techniques in India? And how do the educators and students see this field's potential for growth? What are educators and students' perspectives towards the emergence of AI-assisted language learning in India with its vast multilingual landscape? How do the learners and teachers see the potential of blended learning to address the issue that arise from teaching languages in a multilingual environment? The methodology that we follow in this research paper is is online survey. We have created a Google form, and the link to the Google form was distributed to its participants via the major social media platforms like WhatsApp, Facebook, Instagram, and via mails. Participants included in this survey are language educators, linguists, B.Ed students in specializing in language teaching, and graduates and postgraduate students of any language. Among the various responses that we have received, randomly 5 responses were chosen from each of the categories mentioned above. We are looking into the survey results and analysis of these results. There was very little understanding of the term metamorphosis in language education. We are unaware whether they have the confusion on the term metamorphosis, or is it that they are unaware of the change that is happening in language education in India or around the globe. The participants have recognized the value of social connections in language learning and how important it is to have social interactions, communication, to learn a language. Participants are knowledgeable of cooperative and collaborative learning principles and the importance of cooperative and collaborative learning in a classroom. The participants have acknowledged the impact of COVID-19 on language teaching and learning, how the sudden shift from the traditional method of language teaching in a classroom to the online method has affected not only the students but also the educators. The participants tend to say that the NEP 2020 implementation might lead to the rise of the people using AI and other technologies to learn languages. The participants insist that there is a requirement for a thorough infrastructure improvement, and there should be more funding for the training of teachers to educate them about the tools and approaches which are within the technology, and how this would be important when in the future we depend more on technology assisted language learning or the AI assisted language learning. The participants tend to say that Indian government should create more programs for the educators to learn the basics of technology assisted learning. They also should have the two-way interaction of learning through technology assisted language learning and teaching uh, through technology assisted language learning. The participants emphasize the fusion of AI and human expertise into language teaching, and it should not be a monologue where the AI or technology is talking and they just the listeners. They tend to have more of the traditional approaches of classroom teaching where a teacher is important and their presence is acknowledged, but the teacher should also adopt the technology into their teaching and learning process so that they can have more interactions in the classroom, and also they can get assistance from the technology into the learning process. Some of the implications of the study is that there was an educational awareness. As I have already mentioned, some of the terms like metamorphosis in language learning was not aware to the participants, and they had looked into these terms while attempting to the survey questions. And they also have looked into the social interactionist theory by Vygotsky, and the survey emphasis on the continued relevance of cooperative and collaborative learning. And the survey has let us know that um, how the technology at present is ready to adopt into the technology assisted language learning teaching process in India, how much the Indian educators are aware of various technologies that they can use and adopt in their classrooms. We also have got results which we can show it to the educators while they are intending to implement the NEP 2020 in the coming years, which they have also, the NEP 2020 have started its implementation, and it's in the process of taking new roles in the education system of India. We can let the educators know that what are the positive impacts and the negative impacts of NEP 2020, especially in the language teaching scenario. We have seen results from the participants on the infrastructure and teacher training programs happening in the Indian state of affairs. There was a positive outlook on AI human integration and the future of the blendedness of AI and human to integrate and enhance the education system in India. I would suggest further study in this perspective, as especially as this study hadn't looked into the gender and age categories, which I would say is a major drawback to the study. The further studies can look into the gender and age category divisions and an in-depth exploration of terminologies, and where the further study can look into the interview aspects, and their methodology can be a blended form of interview and online, both using, as I say, the technology and human interactions. The further study can look into the long-term effects of NEP 2020 in the language education, the teacher training and professional development can be looked into. The interaction of AI and human can be studied further, and how equipped the Indian educators are with technology and the access to technology for the students can be looked into, and further a comparative study can be formed to look into how the technology assisted learning and the traditional classroom teaching learning process can be compared and analyzed. These are the references that I have uh, that I have used in my presentation and in my paper. Thank you, and I would also request you all to go through my full research paper, so that you have a deeper understanding to each of these concepts and you can look into the survey results. Thank you for listening to my presentation. Have a good day.